The Isle of Man will be reverberating to the cacophony of sound that emanates from this amazing, wondrous, iconic, historic motorcycle. It's the Honda 6. It's the 250cc six-cylinder RC165 that was raced in the 60s by Mike Harewood, Stuart Graham and Jim Redman. We went to catch up with both Jim and Stuart to learn a little bit more about their memories. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us here on Bike Social. We're here to ask you really about the most iconic, historic and damn near perfect motorcycle that has ever seen the racecourse, especially here at the Isle of Man. Jim, you rode it first, is that right?
Yeah, I was the first one that was eligible really for the bike, and I did the last two races of the season in 1964 on that bike, but I don't know which one. Certainly wasn't that frame, but it was certainly could have been the same engine. And then I did the first full season on my own in 1965. Won the TT first time out. It was a great victory for me because everybody said it revs at 17,500. It's never going to finish the TT, and it went perfectly all through practice and then all through the race, and we just romped home. And so I really, I hate negativity, and to put them all in their place was a fantastic feeling.
You proved the doubters wrong.
Yeah.
And what were your recollections of the first time you swung a leg over their bike?
Well, I got to Japan, and Soichiro Honda was very hands-on, and he liked the motorbikes very short, and much too short for my comfort. And so as I got there was this tiny little bike, much smaller than it is now, in a little frame. And I went down a couple of laps and came in and said to Ike-san, I need about 3 more inches on the swinging arm at the back. And he said, I knew you'd say that but Mr. Honda wanted it like this. And he said the front forks, when you turn them round, you lengthen it another couple of inches. So we patched it up like that, and it was only Monza that we had left, and then Suzuka. So I did as much as I could because I raced in Finland, had to go all the way around via Bangkok and everywhere to get to Japan. And I got there Tuesday morning, and Monza was at the weekend, so we didn't have much time. I spent Tuesday and Wednesday morning at the track, and I said, okay, I can do it. And so I said, let's get to the airport. And Soichiro came strolling across, we didn't even know he was around, and he said, no, we're not going to do it. That bike's not right, Jim's not happy with it, I can see it, and he's going to hurt himself, so we're not going to go to Monza. And I pleaded with him and said, I promise I won't kill myself, and if I do, I'll come back and apologise. And I said, it's only 5 corners, I can walk around the corner and just blast this thing down the straight and still with it. So in the end he said okay, and then we got to the airport. Next thing, they wouldn't guarantee that the bike would be on our plane. So after a fight, we paid for 3 more seats and took the seats out and put the bike in the cabin. So I arrived at Monza with my carry-on luggage, pushing it down the steps, bump, 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 And then, of course, you came to the customs, green and red, and I thought, well, I can hardly walk through the green and say, nothing to declare. So I went through the red and the passage, and then you turn right, and there were all the desks with their tills and everything. And I thought, I'm never going to get through here. They're practicing at the track. And they said, hey, Redman, they're practicing, go. I said, what about the papers? Come back Monday.
Yes.
Only Italy, only in Italy when the customs tell you, get to the race. And then I made a big mistake with the race. I didn't push it hard enough, and the weather was cool. And then race day, it overheated because it was a scorching day, and it overheated and faded at the end. I was winning it easily, and so sadly I finished third and dropped back. It was going, but it would go on 5 cylinders if you open the throttle wide. So it was very hard to not keep trying for a bit more, and then it would start and I'd have to close it and start again. And I still kept the lead for many laps because I had a good lead. But in the end, in fact, Michelle Duff caught me on the line. She was Mike Duff then, but right on the line she caught me and knocked me back to 3rd place. But I didn't care. 2nd or 3rd is two losers.
Yeah. Finished his first race.
Anyway, we got our own back at Suzuka, but I made a big mistake there because I thought he's the world champion, but I'll show who is the champion. And I beat him by half a lap or something, and that was stupid because that caused Yamaha to make the 4-cylinder. So I actually did myself a disfavour to do that. So we all make mistakes, and that was one of our big ones. 2 of them are big ones.
Stuart, over to you. You rode the bike after Jim, but before the great Mike Harewood. What were your first impressions? You'd obviously watched Jim.
Well, Mike was already with Jim with the 6s when I joined, and Jim had his accident in the Belgian Grand Prix, 66 Belgian, in the 500 race in the pouring rain, and so he smashed himself up a bit, so Honda needed some assistance for poor Mike with all these. They were running in the 50, 125, 250, 350, 500 World Championships, so there was a lot going on. So they needed somebody to at least help out and try and gain a few points. So, being as I'd finished 2nd in the 500 race to Aggo on my private matchless, and I was getting some pretty good results in that championship in my first year of Grand Prix. In fact, after the Belgian, I was actually officially 3rd in the 500 World Championship on a private matchless in my first season, which looked pretty good on paper anyway. But then I was approached by Honda at the next round in East Germany at the old Saxon ring, and really out of the blue, although Jim had made some kind of rather flippant suggestion to Mike that he should get me to help him out when he was lying on his hospital bed, but I put that down to he was too full of morphine or something, you know. So yeah, and they said, look, you know, we want you to come and we were going to talk to you at the end of the year about, you know, joining the team anyway, so we're just bringing it forward. We'd like you to ride our 256 cylinder machine, you know, would you like to do that? Which was a simple question, being as I was a young privateer living from hand to mouth, and when the factory Honda team ask you to ride, and especially the 6, then you don't really hesitate. So I was literally plonked on this bike, and the worst problem, of course, as you all know, is that with no flywheel, it's not easy to keep the engine running, and it only works at very high revs anyway. So it was a baptism of fire, literally, and I was sort of plonked on this thing to go out and learn this rather daunting Saxon ring circuit on this 6-cylinder Honda. And of course I hadn't had a lot of briefing. It was really keep the revs there, take it off you go. And of course they'd forgotten to mention that the gearbox was 7 speeds, but it had about 7 neutrals as well. And if you didn't get the down change spot on, and it was a slightly notchy gearbox, then the engine died. So it instantly did that at the most inopportune time through quick corners. I scared myself silly. Came in anyway, finally I said to Mike, you know, you know, the gearbox, you know, it's got lots of neutrals, and oh yeah, they do that, didn't they tell you, you know, and all this stuff. And of course the handling was pretty evil from my point of view, being light, and it was set up for Jim, it was a little heavier, so they changed the dampers, and so for the race it was fine. But I went back on my 500 G50 afterwards, because the 250 practice is first. So by the time I got on the 500, it felt so slow and easy. I was seriously quick on that. I think I was about 4th quickest in the 500 class then, you know. And one of the old stagers came along and said, if you continue to ride like that, boyo, you're going to kill yourself. So I did just that, you know. So anyway, I left it at that, really. So it was good, and that was the start of my Honda career, really. And we went through to Czechoslovakia and Finland, and then of course we came to the Isle of Man here. I finished 2nd to Mike in Finland on this bike actually, because that was then the spare, because the other one had broken. And then we did the TT with the new bike, practiced this one here, and then did the TT on the new machine, which came from Japan, which was much better, I have to say. Finished 2nd to Mike there, and then we went off to Monza, and we were going pretty well there until the ignition packed up. But, so yeah, it was a very wonderful experience, and it set me on my way, you know, as a factory rider in the World Championships. I mean, what an amazing start to my professional career, really, to be riding that. And as you say, Jim and I, sadly, are the only survivors of the original team riding those bikes in period. So we still have wonderful memories, and frankly, it is, as you say, the most iconic Grand Prix bike. And even now, as we've seen it everywhere we go, and even here, that the younger people are fascinated as well as elder. And of course, people still have difficulty in getting their head round that this thing has got 6 cylinders, and motorbikes don't have 6 cylinders, and yet it's so tiny you wouldn't believe it.
I was going to say exactly that. So 50 years on, and yet that bike still pulls the crowds in, and it is such an icon. It'll make grown men go weak at the knees, and it's fabulous to see the younger generation. My father was a huge fan of both of your riding, your professional careers, and I'm so-called Michael after your teammate. And I have been stood with him at the Goodwood Festival Speed, and he's welled up when they've started it.
Yeah.
And it's such an emotional attraction for that generation.
From those, I mean, you're talking 50 years ago now, and you've got the twin-cylinder 50, which I rode this year, which is about that big.
Yes.
And then you've got the 5-cylinder 125, the 6-cylinder 250, and then of course the 6-cylinder 350, which is the overall. They are mechanical jewels, there's no question, and they've set the standards for modern engines even now. The same lightweight, high revs, all that stuff is basically the basis of what's used now.
The Formula One guys of today cannot believe that in 1963 the bike was born. It was only perfected in 64, and the horsepower is exactly the same per cc, the same horsepower per cc as a 217 Formula One car. And they can't believe that we had that technology, and they're busy catching up with us now. You know, all these years later, they haven't got any further forward than Honda were in 1960.
Except they've got electronics now, which is huge.
So to add to it,
and better lubricants.
But they admit that they have to believe it, but they cannot believe it. You know, it's there, it's on paper, and yet their brain won't let them say they.
And how do you both feel about seeing the bike now in Steve Plater's hands and going onto the Isle of Man circuit once again? Is it, do you still sort of emotionally attached to it?
On the centennial, it was voted the bike of the century, and of course nothing much has changed anyway since then. And for me, you know, I was the only one that rode it for the first 18 months, and it's funny here because people remember Mike more than me because I disappeared and it was Stuart and Mike was wringing its neck. You know. And they said to me, "Did you ever ride the bike, you know, before Mike?" Only for about 18 months. You know. And so for me, it is really the bike I love. You know. In fact, I feel that I was stupid because Honda would have given me one if I wanted it, but I just didn't bother. You know. And today it's worth £2 or £3 million, and I could have had it in my garage all day. It's
good to have on your CV, though.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. If you ever applied for another racing job, it might help.
Yeah, I turned down the So for me, especially the 6 is the one. You know. After that, I like the 504. Mike could have run only one bike in the world, the 500 Honda. When that came to Hockenheim, we got a bike each, and out we went. And I came back in, and they said, "What's it like?" And I said, "Perfect. You've done it. I can't fault it in any way. I'm going out again, but at the moment, lovely." And Mike came in and he said, "This bloody thing's unrideable." And so they changed the shocks and checked the forks and did a few things, and he tried and tried. I said, "Change bike." I came in and I said, "His is perfect too." He came in and he says, "Yours is unrideable as well." And he hated the bike. In fact, he broke the gearbox and he was so pleased because we didn't have spares. He just came in at the last minute. And he said, "I'll do the 350, you can do the 500. And he was delighted. Actually, I only rode it 3 times. and I won both races, and was actually sitting behind Mike, and I always went to the front. And on this occasion it was pouring with rain, and I thought, we're all not going to finish the race, I'm going to be canny and sit behind the two of them. And we were going down the fastest part of the course, and I couldn't see a thing for this race, so I moved to the other side of the track and didn't know there was a river over there. And the bike disappeared at about 170 miles an hour, and there I was by myself. You know. That was the end of my career. You know, they said my arm was, the wrist was done in, and I actually got a tame position, and he kept working on it. And I came back to the Ulster Grand Prix, because if I won the Ulster, if I finished behind Agostini and Mike at the Ulster and won the next two races, I would have got the championship. So I came back, I thought I could do the Ulster and beat the Normans with one hand and just be behind the other. And I went out, and it was so painful, and I came in and I couldn't stand the pain, and I went to the first aid and they said, Jesus, hospital quick, gangrene. And they rushed me to the hospital. The doctor's cut him the top off, and he said, I'm going to have to cut your arm off about there. So I said, you cut nothing, you know. He said, I'm just giving you a fright, you can't play around with this thing. So he said, you've got to have a year off. And I was 10 years older than others, because I was a late starter. So that was it, I said. I ended now, because the year off, then I could never come back. Yeah, one of the others could have done it, because they were so young, but I was too old at that time.
So I'd gone to Suzuki after that, because we were running these little two-stroke 50s and 125s and stuff, and they were developing a new 250, and with more cylinders, more gears, more everything, and yeah, sure, things were moving on. And we ended up with the 4-cylinder 125 at the end of the 67 season, which was again 6 months behind, and everything was looking good for the 68 season. I mean, we were able to match the Yamahas, and as Jim says, all this technology was going on. Then the FIM suddenly decided in their wisdom to restrict gears and cylinders, and you know, there was the cost saving. So as Jim said, Honda, Suzuki, Yamaha, Bridgestone, Kawasaki, they all technically got together and said, right, okay, we're out. And you think as Yamaha decided that actually they could quietly carry on and win all the championships for another year. But anyway, so it was a bit of a shame, but it ended what really is the golden era, didn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
That's the ideal phrase, that.
Yeah.
But that therefore makes what we've seen today an icon.
Very special.
Yeah.
And if 50 years later they can still create the level of attention and awe that they do now, frankly says it all, doesn't it?
Yeah. You both must be very proud.
It's probably why I didn't bother with a 6, because I'd rather have one of the V8s instead of the 6. So, but they were going to become last year's bikes, you know, so V8s and exciting stuff coming down the road.
Thank you both very much.
Pleasure.